Okay.
Pursuing crime or arresting people, they should be able to murder.
So there should be no. Well, but then you start to get to a place where you think be no, there should be no penalty, or there should be no police response when crimes are being committed at all. I agree when it's stupid police, traffic things, no, fine, but
no, I think we've got. See, this is exactly the issue. We're so accustomed to police regularly engage in violence. Police shoot people. Police, engage in so much brutality that we can't seem to fathom a world without it. You can pursue somebody, and you don't need to recklessly murder other people. You don't need to shoot and kill other people involved. You don't need to shoot your own officer. You don't need to shoot the person that you were going to arrest, a 15-year-old kid, and then hold the other people responsible. There is a way. You can have a criminal system. You can have laws, and you can hold people responsible without murdering them. The problem is the fact that we want to hold everybody else to the law and the highest standards, and we don't seem to want to hold police to the standard at all. That is my problem here. This could have been done whether or not you want to stop him for a traffic stop, okay. Whether or not you say he commit this traffic infraction, okay. Whether or not you say he shouldn't.
I say take it back even further than that. I say don't even have to be any traffic stops. It's unnecessary. It don't have to be done. Even if we strip all the telephone poles and the light poles and the cameras from every building that are around, the police cars and their police cams that are on their jackets are good enough. That's all you need. They're pretending that the technology is not there on some days, but then on other days they show us the technology is all around us. They're chasing me down. I'm a nobody. And they have spent tens of thousands of dollars tracking me, tracing me, following me. Not only on foot, more so cameras. The cameras on the houses that I stay at, friends' houses, family, all that. Their cameras alone are tracking me everywhere I go and being used by these people that you're talking about. So if that's the case, then you don't need to pull anybody over to give them a ticket. You have facial recognition that they're throwing in our face. Every time I go to the store, Walmart's, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever I go into a store, those cameras are picking me up. And when I come outside the store, I have an agent waiting there for me, watching me. What are they watching me for? Well, it's always something different every time because they're trying to set me up on something. They're trying to grab me on something they can hold me for a long period of time. They don't want to get me on something small so that they have to release me within a week or two or something like that. What it is I'm showing you is the most important thing that any of you will ever see in your lives, and you're all passing on it. You're all passing on it. It's unbelievable to watch this. It's so sad. We don't need to be pulled over by the police anymore. They can just get behind us, and there's a light pole in front of them that's facial recognition. In other words, you can send the ticket in the mail just by the cameras alone. I don't want the cameras there. The idea is not to say, oh yeah, less pulling of everybody over because now you got the cameras. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying get rid of the cameras, get rid of the pulling everybody over, get rid of it all. It's all about bringing money, more money into the system, um, to make everyone more poor, and it only goes after certain people. Uh, it doesn't go after everyone. They don't go after everyone. I say that because the camera can pick up 1,000 fractions, right? 1,000 violations in one day. But yet, for some reason, only 300 fines go out, right? Why is that? Why is that? If the camera's got their face and the camera's got their plate and the camera's got it that they're breaking the law in some way, then why is only some of them being nailed for this shit? There's a lot of things to look at with all that, and we've been sucked into this camera system, the smart cities initiative shit, and we were lied to about all that too. Because when I say lied to, meaning they told us straight up, but then they weeks later they come out and say, "Oh no, that was a fake document, and that wasn't true." That wasn't. Oh, so we're not going to have cameras in every corner. We're not going to have smart lighting, smart cities that are watching our every move. I mean, these pricks have spent, no exaggeration, tens of thousands of dollars tracking a nobody. You're talking about when you go back and look at the Miguel Everyone channel. I'm gonna mark those videos this week. I'm gonna get them all marked. And when you look in the camera, all these people that you're gonna be seeing are gonna be agents. Their vehicles, their plate numbers, and I only got a small fraction of them because they have the technology to shut my phone down when I'm recording. They have the ability and the access to YouTube and Google so they can shut my videos down when they get to video form and I upload them. They can crash my cell phone, ruin my SIM card, so I have to reset it and all my videos are gone. They can do whatever the fuck they want, and they do. And everyone else ignores it. Everyone says, "Oh no, that just can't be." It is. It is what it be, but yet nobody wants to admit it. I hope you girls will see what it is. Come to these videos. I hope you end up coming to these videos.
Have run. Okay, but why are you shooting and murdering the boy for what you know is a traffic infraction?
I'm very, very critical of police behavior. I want more accountability from the police. I think they did the wrong thing in a lot of these incidents. I don't know that I'm as critical of them as you are. I think there has to be some enforcement of some of these things.
Enforcement has nothing to do. Enforcing laws has nothing to do with why you're routinely murdering black people. There's no reason why you should live in a country where over 1,000 people are being shot and killed by the police every year, and that is not, and that's not taking into account all these other ways that they're killing people, all this other police brutality, right? A lot of these cases that our hearts go out to, George Floyd, they wouldn't even count. So think about that. They don't even count in those numbers. That's a massive issue that policing is this dangerous. It's a massive issue that we can't even engage in a conversation about policing without talking about all the necessary ways you should try and avoid, irritating them or pissing them off somehow in the terms of them pursuing you for crime, because they might kill you. That's not what it is. There's no world, no traffic infraction, the punishment is death. Not a one. Never. So there's no reason why 8 officers should choose to go and shoot him to death.
I guess I just don't have a lot of sympathy in this particular case, although I do.
You don't have a lot of sympathy in this case where he was shot 60 times?
After leading the police on a high-speed chase and returning fire?
First of all, let me just say this. The police, no. Let's because too often media reports on what are police stories as though it is the ultimate truth. We spent a lot of time covering Uvalde and realizing a lot of police lying happens, right? I talked about Ronald Green where the police said, oh, it was an auto accident. Turns out the police killed him. We see too many discrepancies for us to consistently lean on what the police say is the truth.
Absolutely.
What we know is this boy, we've seen this on video, we know that he was shot at 100 times, 60 bullets hit him, he died, they riddled him with bullets, and then they handcuffed his dead body. He was unarmed at the time of that. His gun was in the car. Police say, which has not yet been substantiated or corroborated, they say they believe that one bullet might have come from the window. They say that's what they say. Their argument is
they're full of shit.
Exactly. But what I do know is that they shot this boy 60 times for a traffic infraction. I know that.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we'll have our rising panel join us next. Great conversation as always.
Gotta watch out for commercials.
Next to feces, more disturbing images from Rikers Jail in New York are coming to light in shocking pictures obtained by Gothamist, people not yet convicted of any crimes, shown living overcrowded in their own waste. Another shocking indictment of conditions at the famed, infamous New York jail complex.
So awful. Here to discuss further is movement lawyer and political commentator Olayemi Olorin. Welcome, Olayemi.
Olayemi, that's how you say her name.
Thank you so much for joining us. These images are horrific. I was so glad that you highlighted them on a very viral Twitter thread, which is great to see this getting the attention it deserves. How did we get here? Talk us through that.
We've been trying to draw attention to this crisis for years now, and I wish I could say in the answer to how we got here that this is the first time we're seeing photos like this, but it's not. Just last year, we had horrific photos come out of the conditions inside Rikers, and nonetheless, they continue to fight bail reform. They continue to put more and more people in Rikers. And right now, Rikers was supposed to be on track to close by the year 2026. They were supposed to agree, de Blasio had agreed to the plan to close Rikers. And that was a plan that Eric Adams said that he co-signed as well. And they were supposed to be trying to decarcerate Rikers and get it down to 3,300 people. Rikers is a facility built to hold 3,000 people only. And right now, they have 5,000 black and brown New Yorkers that have not been convicted of a trial being incarcerated there. And that's why you see the conditions you see, with people piled on top of each other with no space, with people being held in shower stalls, people losing their lives, people contracting illness. This condition, this is not new, unfortunately. It's great that the photos have come out and it helps strengthen the arguments of the proponents who are trying to show us that this facility needs to be closed. We need to stop using cash bail to weaponize it against poor people. But unfortunately, this is not new. Rikers has long been declared a human rights crisis, especially since 2020 when the pandemic reached catastrophic heights inside of the jail. There's really no other way to describe it. So this has been a long time coming. Last year there were 16 deaths in Rikers, which was the highest death toll since 2013. This is already, we're not completed the year yet. We're already at 15 deaths, so we're well on track to be past the amount of deaths we had last year. This is horrific.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to note, as you just did, that these are by and large people who have not yet, they're awaiting trial. They've not yet even been convicted of crimes, which is not to say that, people convicted of crimes suddenly deserve miserable conditions or anything like that, but this can happen. You could find yourself in this place, in this hell, without ever having actually done anything wrong, or let alone having been subjected yet to due process. And what are the ways? It's not, and it's also not like, well, you're in for a weekend or something and then you're going to be out. Like, what are the wait times for people stuck in Rikers like these days?
Years. People can spend years in Rikers. I know one of the most famous stories that really moves people's heart is Khalif Browder, who spent years there when he was 16 and accused of stealing a backpack he didn't steal, which eventually, even upon release, the long-lasting psychological effects of that eventually led to him taking his life. So people spend years in Rikers, years waiting on a trial. And what often happens is most things in the criminal system don't go to trial. Most things in the criminal system don't end in a conviction. What actually happens is they use, by being able to set cash bail on people and send them to Rikers, because of the horrific conditions, people want to get out, then they do plead to a crime, then they do take a conviction just so that they can be released from this horrific place. Or what happens in the few people that will eventually get their trial, you spend years and years sitting in Rikers, and by the time you have your trial, even if you beat the trial, even if you're found not guilty, you've already experienced all the effects of incarceration and what that does to your life in a permanent way. So this is just people are in an unimaginable situation, and the system is deliberately being set up that way because that's how it works. They can't take everything to trial. This is how you coerce people into plea deals.
Yeah, the story of Khalif Browder is just horrific, and I remember when he took his life, and that there was this sense of this has to be the last time that this happens. This man was accused of a nonviolent offense, and then 3 years later, it turns out that the person who, was accusing him wasn't even in the country anymore. It was just a totally horrific crime. But I guess I would ask, why isn't it the case that a judge, somebody is accused of something and the judge makes a decision based on whether they're likely to reoffend, what kind of a physical threat they pose to the community? I mean, why is that not the standard for determining whether or not somebody is released to wait trial outside jail?
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, why it's not is a question about what our criminal system is actually here to do and maintain. But the reality is the bail system has nothing to do with public safety. The actual legal standard for whether or not bail is set on somebody is whether or not they'll return to court. That's the whole legal standard. Whether or not you're a danger to public safety, whether or not you've been convicted, none of that is actually what we're analyzing, because at arraignments, you haven't been convicted of a crime. No evidence is presented against you. What happens is someone makes an accusation against you, they bring charges, they arrest you, and then you're arraigned. They don't have to present anything at all, even if actually more often than you can possibly imagine, the person that they're calling the victim is sitting in the audience saying, no, I did not want this person arrested. I am not going to go along with this case. I don't want this person prosecuted. Please stop, please stop. And the court says, noted. And they set bail and they issue orders of protection in spite of what this person is saying, even though they know they won't be able to prosecute it. The prosecutors know on a later date they will have to dismiss this case. They won't be able to take it to trial. Instead, they still exercise their ability to set bail on these people and create these kind of conditions.
So would you support setting bail based on a question of whether somebody is likely to reoffend, whether they do present a threat to the community, or do you think nobody should be held prior to trial?
I would say the cash bail system is always in place to weaponize it against poor people. If we do have components, there are places without cash bail systems. Like New Jersey entirely got rid of its cash bail system in 2014 under Republican Governor Christie. It doesn't mean that no one gets detained pre-trial. What it means is if we have actual evidence, if the prosecutor is able to present some evidence that you are a danger to public safety, or if you are a flight risk, or they have some reason to believe that this crime is so dangerous that you can't be out pre-trial, what they will do is they will just detain you. But they don't create a monetary reality, because this not works. If you're poor and someone sets cash bail on you, you will just never be able to get out. It doesn't matter how it works, right? But if someone is rich, if somebody does have means, no matter how dangerous they are or whatever else standard you say, they can always purchase their freedom. So getting rid of a cash bail system takes that out of it. So people can still be detained. You can still detain people if they're a danger to people, but instead of making it a money thing where only poor people suffer in these circumstances, we have that.
Well, I think that sounds like actually maybe a great compromise between people who are worried about public safety and people who don't want the laws or the rules weaponized against the poor. Because as you said, I think that would make sense to a lot of people that if there's a danger, you're detained or you're prevented from leaving. And based on, again, there needs to be due process. So if you've already been convicted once, if you've already there's already overwhelming evidence or video evidence or that you've been convicted, that you are a danger to people on the street or maybe to your spouse or to your family or something like that. Maybe the presumption then could be that we can't just let you go, rather than it being like, well, how much likely are you to show up, can you afford whatever.
Right.
That would seem like a more logical way to do it.
Yeah, and it lends legitimacy to the things we.
It goes even further than that, though, because to pay for a lawyer and not get one of these crappy public defenders, and people will say, oh no, the public defenders are good and they're trying and everything like that. It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. There's no public defender that's going to be able to. They're all going to plead you and to pleading guilty for something that you didn't even do, or even if you did it, it may not even be something that you personally and millions of others personally would even constitute as a jailable offense. Everything is jailable now. Everybody's going to jail for no fucking reasons. A lot of the laws should be changed. And the laws should be changed to help people, not to, screw people over like they're doing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Everything you guys are saying is correct, in my opinion. But we got to go beyond opinion to what we can prove. And you can prove these things that you're saying are correct. Take them even further. And let's listen to some more of this.
We already believe, right? If we have a presumption of innocence in our criminal system, we want to believe if I'm accused of a crime, I'm innocent until proven guilty. But a cash bail system takes that away from us. If we say, oh, you're innocent until proven guilty, but I'm going to send you to jail anyway, regardless, you're going to sit in jail because you don't have this amount of money, are you really innocent until proven guilty? But if we have a system that says, okay, prosecutors, when they arraign you on charges, if they can present actual evidence, they have some substantive reasons that they present to the judge for why this person is being incarcerated, that not only lends legitimacy to the presumptions that we already believe in, but it also provides some kind of cover for the judge and the prosecutors so that they can't say, people aren't so easily able to say you have a system in place where you're just, weaponizing against poor people, you're just accusing poor people of crimes and throwing them in jail and, getting rid of the key. Instead, it says, no, we at least have some kind of standard. There's a reason why we're holding this person. It isn't just that we live in a city like New York City where we have 9 million people, but yet 90% of the people that are incarcerated at Rikers are black and brown. So I think it's a good system. And you actually see Chicago getting ready to do that in January 2023 with the Pretrial Fairness Act. They're going to do that. They're going to get rid of mostly cap.
The theft and the murder by the elite is so big and ignored. The next video I do, I'm gonna bring in a doctor who's calling out the medical industry, and even he doesn't take it far enough. We have a mass exodus of the medical industry, nurses, doctors, aides, all these people, mass exodus, because they're feeling guilty. And they're feeling guilty about, majority of them are anyways, that are leaving. They're feeling guilty after the COVID shit because they realized, they were told to lie and they did. And by doing so, they've come to these conclusions. But really, when you think about it, if you go look at Casey Means and Corey Means and you look at their story, which I will try to bring some of that into your series as well, the food industry, the agriculture industries, the beef industries, the food industries, they come into play along with pharmaceutical industries, and then get the medical industry also involved. So the entire country, we've all been screwed over. But again, when you look at I'll bring you to their series. I'm going to put them in on your series, and listen to what these doctors and nurses are saying, and then take it another step further, kind of like I'm telling you about all of these police reform bills and all this kind of shit. It's all garbage. You have to take it even further than where you're taking it. And you're taking it further than most people that I've seen take it. So I'm glad to see that. This is nice meeting you. I'm enjoying listening to you guys.
Cash bail, but still have a system in place where judges and prosecutors can have a standard for detaining people if there is a public safety element.
You know, I take so much the point that you're making about the presumption of innocence, which is like literally, you know, so much of our civilization is based on that and should be based on that. At the same time, there has been a big increase in violent crimes, in, you know, homicides, although that's now coming down, thank God. Rape is still up, carjacking, armed robbery, all of these are still up. Some from before the pre-pandemic lows, and it does seem like there is this sort of wave going through New York. When I talk to police officers, they often tell me that a lot of this crime has to do with the feeling that prosecutors won't keep people incarcerated, that they are releasing people back onto the streets. So help me understand that, Olayemi, from your point of view, where does this crime wave fit into this? I mean, obviously those photos are inexcusable when somebody is, you know, in the custody of the state. I mean, it's absolutely unacceptable for them to be treated in that way. There is the presumption of innocence. I totally agree with you and respect the work that you do so much. But help me understand the role of this crime wave in what we're seeing here.
So studies have actually already come out repeatedly. There have been numerous studies that already show that bail reform is not related to a rise in crime. Listen, when we say we have crime, there's a reason. We have to actually explore the conditions that create crime and where we're living. We live in New York City, and since 2020 to now, New York City's cost of living has raised exponentially. We have an average of about, over $4,000 in rent to live here in this city. We have eviction moratoriums being lifted. We have a homeless crisis. We have all kinds of issues that substantively affect why we have crime, right? So that is not this complete confusion as to how we're getting there. But when it comes to bail reform, the average person that is let out while their case is pending, they're not being rearrested. That's just simply statistically not what is happening here. The rise in crime is not linked to people being released on bail. But more importantly, like I said, bail has nothing to do with a public safety element in the first place, right? If we were having a conversation with this idea that crime is all happening because people are being released or they're not being held, not only does it fly in the face of everything else we said in the system about our system or presumption of innocence and all these different things, but it's simply not true. I think a study actually just was released yesterday that of the 11,000 people that were released during the pandemic because of, remember when they released people because of the pandemic issues in the jails, maybe about 17 were rearrested for some kind of violent crime. Those numbers are staggeringly in the favor of bail reform. So unfortunately, that's not true. Also, I want to address something that I think is important, to stop taking police officers' narratives as fact. Of course, police are going to always tell you, yeah, we're not in favor of these reforms because it takes money out of their pocket. We give over $10.6 billion is given in NYPD. We give over $860 billion to the corrections officers. When we made budget cuts all throughout this year, we still gave $200 million more to NYPD in between Rikers. They have an actual money incentive to continue fear-mongering and convince people that these systems need to be maintained this way, and it's just simply not the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, Olayemi, we appreciate your perspective as always. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, y'all.
And we'll have more Rising right after this. Uvalde has suspended its entire school district police department after months of nationwide backlash. This comes just as families of victims from the massacre conducted an 11-day sit-in in front of the school district police station.
The mass suspension comes quickly after the superintendent of the Uvalde School District announced that he is retiring, and an officer responding to the shooting was fired for not bringing her vest or rifle when she was one of the first officers to enter the school on the day of the massacre.
All right, so a refresher for the viewer.
I'll just say hoax, okay? Go look at the whole story. Go look at the camera footage. Go look at camera footage from when the dude is entering the door, supposedly. Why no camera at the door? Why is the camera 20 feet away to the left, behind some trash barrels, behind some bushes, to see a shadow figure walking into the school? Think about this. Is there any way that any parent, janitor, teacher, police officer would stand in a hall and listen to a bunch of people be massacred, especially children? No, they wouldn't. Nobody would. So as smart as you guys are, you don't see these things. You don't call these are hoaxes. This is to get the surveillance state built up. Scare the shit out of everybody so that they're willing to put cameras up their ass so that you'll constantly be tracked. And they're not going to do it with fingerprints. They're not going to do it with a chip in your neck. They're going to do it with facial recognition. And that's how they're going to track and monitor the shit out of everybody. I wish you guys would see that.
What went wrong here. This was the horrible, horrific mass shooting. So many children and a few teachers died when the shooter came and barricaded himself in a classroom, although now we know that the classroom was maybe not even locked. Police, so many police showed up, tons of police, and they waited and waited and waited and waited as the...
Yeah, but go look what they were doing while they were waiting. Look at those camera footages of what they were doing, smiling, washing their hands with the COVID soaps that were provided, shooting the shit about what they're doing after work, right? It was a hoax.
Who does in law enforcement agencies?
As children still alive in the classroom with bullet wounds, calling 911 saying, please come in and save us, we are dying. They waited. The one officer, his wife was the teacher in there dying, and he moved toward the door, and they held him back and took him away. Parents outside, desperate to get in. Everyone trying to do something except the police.
And I'm glad you made that point, because that is a bit of the...
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point too, because see, you'll be able to tell a big difference between the real parents who did not know that it was a hoax, and you'll see the difference between them that were waiting outside wondering about their children, because you got to remember they held the whole school. Everybody that was in there was held in the school. So the parents that you're seeing with real tears and reality in their face, those are the parents that did not realize that it was a hoax. Then you have other people that were involved that were all agents, and then you can look at them and see the difference in their personalities and what they do. The ones that put their children on news a day or two after the incident to talk with a blank face, with no expression, with no fear, after just seeing their classmates and their teachers be murdered 2 days earlier, I don't think so. You guys got to wake up a little bit too.
The officer that was fired, so that officer was found on body cam footage that in conjunction to not bringing their rifle and their vest inside, even though they had it, and they just left it and went inside unarmed. Then they go outside where they stayed for the entirety of the incident, and they're heard on their body worn camera footage saying, if my children were in there, you could bet I wouldn't be out here. That's all I know.
That's their job. It's so, yeah.
It's you know what is unfortunate? When you have people like me who are incredibly critical of the police, they should not. It's the kind of thing I would have to infer, right? I've said a million times, it was very clear that these officers did not care. It was negligence. They made an executive decision just to disregard the lives of the children. We know that based on all the evidence that we know. But to hear it on camera, to consciously know, to stand out there as an officer.
Our local school has 28 of these fake ass fucking lockdowns per season. 28 one season, 23 season before, 18 the season before that. Every year more and more of them. They're ready for a false flag too.
Officer, it's your job to protect these people. You were there on the scene to respond to it. You have the weaponry, you have the shields, you have the protection, but just to make a conscious decision, I'm not going to do it. And I know that if it were my kid, I would. Stood out there and consciously just looked at those parents. In fact, not just looked at the parents, as we know the parents were berated, tackled, arrested, pepper sprayed. They experienced nothing but abuse as their children are being murdered inside.
Yeah, and this is a school district that has its own police department.
Right.
You would think... and has had training. The department had training to deal with this exact scenario. We all, I guess, the police department that initially responded to Columbine 20 years ago, right? They waited. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what this new kind of psychotic mass shooter type, or that they're not taking hostages. They're just there to kill people. So back then, the police waited. Right. They didn't know what to do. Now we know. We've had, unfortunately, several instances like this.
We've had
the training is for police, including for these police. rush the shooter. Do not wait. You don't wait for reinforcements. You don't wait for backup. You throw
And they
yourself
know
at the
that.
shooter.
And they know
if you
that.
get shot, the guy behind you, maybe he gets a shot.
And not only do they know that, they had a training, they had their most recent training maybe a month before this, but additionally, again, over 12 different law enforcement agencies showed up. So even if, let's pretend that the school's police department was just unprepared, or they didn't know, didn't have this wherewithal, they had backup, and people show up with tactical shields that said this police department actively prevented them. This police department suspended just because I read all the commentary from the families themselves who did the sit-in and who have advocated for this, and this is a win for them, and so I don't in any way want to downplay that, but this is the least of what should be being done. An entire fourth grade class was massacred months ago, and we're just now only in response as the semester's already started, and parents have to the parents of their children who died have to sit in and beg you to hold these people accountable. And what you're saying, you're going to conduct an investigation? What more investigation? What investigation hasn't been conducted? What don't we know? What do we need to know more that you need to hold these people responsible for? What more do you need to know other than they stood there and allowed a fourth grade class to be massacred?
Conservatives should view it as because this gets into there's some reflexive support for law enforcement among some Republicans. I always say to view it as they're paid for by our tax dollars. They should be held accountable when there's wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And that should go the same for the police. This is just a crystal clear example of utter catastrophic failure on the part of people who work for us,
Absolutely.
who are supported by our tax dollars.
Absolutely. I think there is too much resistance to being critical of police when they've acted poorly. Let me say this. As a person who was an abolitionist and who was critical of the police across the board.
And I am not an abolitionist.
I know. We know, Robbie. The streets know.
Not
Okay? But as a person who was an abolitionist and is incredibly critical of the police, I find that if your response to me is no, we should have faith in the system, that all these incidents, you can't deny the fact that there are miscarriages of justice, that police commit a lot of harm, that people are killed by the police, that police allow people to be killed. You can't deny incidents like this. So if you still want to support the police, you need to take the position that this is a mistake, or these are outliers, or that these quote-unquote bad apples, and if that's going to be your response, you have to be willing and prepared to correct the system or change it in some way. The problem comes into play if I tell you, if we have a policing system and I say, listen, we have a police state, police are killing people, over 1,000 people each year, police are negligent, we have ever since Columbine, we have put over 100,000 police officers in schools across the country, and it hasn't prevented school shootings. If I say all of this and I make this argument and your response is we need to maintain these things, we need these things, but you're seeing all these evidence of how it's not working effectively, your position has.
No, what you got to do is you got to change the way that you're looking at things yourself, because the 7.8 billion people that believe all these fucking lies for no other reason than they're put on a TV screen is just ridiculous. I mean, when you look at the story that you guys are talking about and really think about it, think about what it is you're seeing when you put the whole story together. There are hundreds of these hoaxes that have happened in the United States. Why was it that none of these, you just mentioned the officers in the school, that it's not making any difference? Oh, you bet your ass it's making a difference. You turned your schools into prisons. And we all know this. We all know this. There's no denying it. Brick buildings, look at the way the windows are, can't get out. Rules up the ass, ridiculous rules, no more chewing gum, even if the kids have autism or some reason that they would need to fixate on something. Those things are made outlawed, in the school system. The whole thing has been a fuck show. And for us to keep going along with it, even though I like your guys' arguments that you're making, you got to take it to the next level. You're not going far enough with your arguments. Yes, the people are being mistreated, but I mean, look at when they're a hoax, you guys are going to be afraid to call them out as a hoax because you'll get shut down, which is probably what this video I'm making now will probably get my channel shut down. What are you going to do? Lie about it? Go along with the lies? Make believe, pretend that I believe such nonsense? And look at the reasonings behind it, because as I was just saying a minute ago before I had to pause the camera, we have 28 shutdowns I think it was our maximum. And I'm going to tell a story in a future video. I'll tell some of my own personal stories with all these shelter in places, what they used to call them. They're lockdowns, they're prison lockdowns. And You girls should know this by now. You girls should be able to see this. I should think, you know.
Has to be. We've got to make it effective. We've got to change it. We have to hold these officers responsible. If you're not saying that police in and of itself are completely inefficient, you don't want the position that we should completely take police out of the schools. You have to at least acknowledge the police that responded to this school.
I agree, but now, Alina, you have to go tell John Oliver that I agree with you on that. You saw there was we were featured on a John Oliver clip. You and I from your last appearance on the show, one of your last appearances, in the chair, and I'm portrayed as this like naive fool who doesn't.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cropping tool back up in a second, but you know, you're seeing the eye here, obvious eye, the nose, the mouth. Looks like you even got a fang or something going on this one. But see how clear the eye is, that you can see the eye so good? And then it's image within image within image within image, so I can use those eyes for a lot of things, but I'm going to crop them again, but you're going to see the whole large face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the cropping tool in so that I can get the pupil that's going to match the pupil direction of that eye. So that I know I'm on the right one, which is going to be that one right there. Wait for it. There he is. See him? Looking right at you. It's because the two pupils and these two eyes are looking right at us. These are clouds, by the way. And it looks like I'm at my end of my video or no? These are what you call clouds. I'm using a cropping tool to come through here. I'm gonna, show that one again, and then I can bring it in, get you the next one. There you go. And there you go. And there you go. Okay, press and play. Press and play.
Doesn't understand that the police do things wrong. Like, if you see any of my other reporting, you would not think that.
I am so sorry, but listen.
It's not your fault. He called me baby Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest is a national treasure.
All right, we gotta go. More Rising right after this.
So, Robbie, what's on your radar?
Well, the Oregon Health Authority is a government agency that coordinates medical care and social well-being in the Beaver State. During the pandemic, OHA was responsible for coordinating Oregon's vaccination drive and disseminating information about COVID-19, both vital tasks. The agency's Office for Equity and Inclusion, however, prefers not to rush the business of government. In fact, the office's program manager delayed a meeting with partner organizations on the stated grounds that, quote, urgency is a white supremacy value. In an email I obtained exclusively, Regional Health Equity Coalition Program Manager Danielle Droppers informed the community that a scheduled conversation between OHA officials and relevant members of the public would not take place as planned. Thank you for your interest in attending the community conversation between Regional Health Equity Coalitions and community advisory councils to discuss the community investment collaboratives, wrote Droppers. We recognize that urgency is a white supremacy value that can get in the way of more intentional and thoughtful work, and we want to attend to this dynamic. Therefore, we will reach out at a later date to reschedule. Droppers did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Maybe she wasn't rushing to answer my email because rushing is racist. I don't know. The email, by the way, was sent from Droppers' state government email address, and yes, it drew sharp rebukes from many who received it. One such community member replied that, well, as a person of color, I am calling BS. Another recipient, a health equity manager at a medical group, said she was thrown by the claim. Please educate me on what the state means by urgency is a white supremacy value, she wrote. Also, I would like to know how this gets in the way of our work. I have struggled all morning with how to communicate the reason for the postponement to our community. Droppers did not follow up on her initial email with an explanation, but a county health official did, responding that I too was taken by surprise by this statement and decided to investigate it for further comprehension, wanted to share a link that I found. The link redirects to a website that purportedly identifies aspects of white supremacy culture. The website was conceived and designed by Tima Okun, a white anti-racist educator. Tima Okun is the reason I am bringing this incident to your attention, because it is not remotely a freak occurrence or a random act of craziness. Okun's incredibly reductive views are everywhere, in education, in diversity training for corporations, now we know inside local government. It was Okun who popularized the idea that several benign and widespread traits are actually characteristics of white supremacy. Among these are preferring quantity over quality, wanting things to be written down, perfectionism, becoming defensive, and yes, possessing a sense of urgency. Just look at this infographic from her website. It lists objectivity and fear of open conflict as literal bottles of white supremacist poison. Again, it would be easy to make fun of these ideas and simply move on if they hadn't infected the entire diversity and equity industry, but they have. Okun's work makes frequent appearances in educational equity workshops. Here's one such training session that was hosted by Washington University in St. Louis.
Free service from the Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis. This is a free service that connects community and stimulates conversations and shares ideas. And we began offering these programs at the start of pandemic, and we have now hosted over 160 of these free programs as a resource for the community.
The title of that video is Professionalism a Racist Construct? I think we could agree that no, it's not, and just move on, but the training continues for another hour. Remarkably similar work by Judith Katz, who is also a self-professed anti-racism expert, was included on the website for the National Museum of African American History and Culture. This infographic, which I admit is more visually appealing than the poison chart, nevertheless asserts that emphasizing the scientific method, believing in hard work, and here it is again, timeliness, are aspects of white culture. Now, neither Katz nor Okun's work is technically critical race theory, which is this new catch-all term used by many conservatives to describe just any and all.
Okay, this video is going to end in a minute. What they're talking about, what you guys are talking about right now with the time thing, they're kind of right. Because when I show you the false creator / creators clock, it's the moon, just to let you know. But I can show you, I have the gist of how it works and how to use it. And when I show you, you're going to realize that there are a lot of falsities about our time, the time that humans use, because there are zeros and everything. So those falsities, I'm going to be able to show you throughout your series. I'll be able to show you that, and then you're going to understand what it is you're talking about right now and how true it actually is. I don't know if I'd go as far as calling it a racist thing, because the white zombie slaves, they don't realize what it is they do. So I don't really think that it's a racial thing as far as that goes, but it definitely, black humans seem to be better at, they're going by their own time. They're just going by their own time. All the different colors, nationalities we could call them, but the different colors are all going to be working on their own time, and they can't just be going by the 24-hour clock that humans use. It doesn't work that way. I'll kind of use an example of shit, am I out of time? I just quickly use the example that, we send kids to school at 8 in the morning when really they're not even waking up until 10 or 11. We ourselves as adults go to work at 6, 7 in the morning when really we don't even turn on. Some of us, it depends on the person. Some of us turn on at 3 a.m. in the morning and then want to get up and get going at 6, and that depends on the time of year and all that kind of thing. That's the example that I'll give you. So instinctually, we know that what I'm explaining to you is correct, but yet we go against it and we go in at 6 a.m. every morning, that kind of thing. So I'll talk more about that later too then.
Progressive anti-racism activism that they don't like. but it's often adjacent to CRT in diversity, equity, and inclusion training materials and has clearly made inroads in education settings. So here's the thing, and this point should really be sufficient to shut down this entire ideology. Urgency is not an aspect of white supremacy. Hard work is not an aspect of white supremacy. Preferring that things be written down, not white supremacists. These are just
Yeah, actually, they are too. And now that the video is going to end, I won't have time to explain. The problem is that black people should not feel guilty or bad about running on their own time clock, about running on their own time schedule. We call it laziness. White people are the ones that invented that bigotry of that. The fact that because they're black, no, it's not all. There's white people too that want to live by their own clock. They don't want to live by the clock that humans have, you know, evolved, I guess, because it's false and it's fake, and it has nothing to do with reality. It's all based on, you know, human concepts.